Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Brian. We're going to continue on this week checking out a couple of special selections. Today's comes at us from Eliza, putting in a request for Opheliac by Emilie Autumn. It's the title track and the opener for a concept album inspired by Hamlet, in particular by Ophelia's story and perspective. Interesting idea with this. Now, I am aware of Emilie Autumn, but I've never listened to any of her works. She was in a musical, two musicals, but called The Devil's Carnival. And she played the painted doll, I think was the name of the character. And I remember looking into her works in like 2010-ish when the first one came out. And something didn't click with me back then. So I never really dove much into her works, but I really enjoyed her performance in that film. So I'm excited to dive into this much older and wiser, hopefully, and see what she created with this track, Opheliac, off of the album by the same name from 2010. Let's dig into it. It's interesting how much Baroque is present in here.
I'm your Opheliac. I've been so disillusioned. I know you take me back, but still I feign confusion. I couldn't be your friend. My world was too unstable. You might have seen the end, but you were never able to keep me breathing as the water rises up again. You know the games I play and the words I say when I want my own way. You know the lies I tell when you've gone through hell and I say I can't stay. You know how hard it can be to keep believing in me when everything and everyone becomes my enemy. When there's nothing more you can do, I'm gonna blame it on you. It's not the way I wanna be. I only hope that in the end you will say Opheliac in me. It's the Opheliac in me. I'm your Opheliac. My stockings prove my virtue. I'm open to attack, but I don't want to hurt you. Whether I swim or sink, that's no concern of yours now. How could you possibly think you had the power to know how to keep me breathing as the water rises up again before I slip away? You know the games I play and the words I say when I want my own way. You know the lies I tell when you've gone through hell and I say I can't stay. You know how hard it can be to keep believing in me when everything and everyone becomes my enemy. And when there's nothing more you can do, I'm gonna blame it on you. It's not the way I wanna be. I only hope that in the end you will say Opheliac in me. It's the Opheliac in me. Intelligent girls are more depressed because they know the world. They don't think everything's gonna be alright. No, a devil, an angel, no in between. She speaks in the third person, so she can't forget that she's me.
I like the subtle chiptune percussion behind this. I think that's the first thing I've said all reaction. The way that she changes up her vocal placement so quickly. Oh man, what a ride. I gotta take these off. Yeah, so that goes in my listen to later list. Where do I even begin with this? There are very few songs that leave me speechless. And this is added to the very small pile. I think the first area that I need to discuss is just the sheer variety on display. There is, of course, the obvious Baroque style writing in this on harpsichord and violin. It's present in a few places, isolated, such as our intro, but also in the background, such as in our chorus. The melodies, the harmonies utilize the chord progressions, everything feels taken straight from the Baroque era. Whoever composed this obviously has a real strong background in classical composition, which brings me to the first oddity in here, I suppose, which is that this is still a dance pop song. I'm not sure what genre to put this into, probably something adjacent to Baroque pop, but it feels too dancey for that. But there's still the four on the floor backbeat alternating between digital snare and digital bass kick that creates a very driving, momentous, static, rhythmic pattern underneath everything, and her vocal lines, for the most part, have a modern sensibility to them. The catchiness of the melodies don't lend themselves well to the Baroque style that we were introduced to at the beginning of this track. They feel closer to pop music. And I guess in pop music this time, I actually just mean popular music, mainstream musics. Not necessarily pop music specifically, but there's also some rock elements in here, but once again, more on the mainstream side of rock. Regardless, it is this really cool clash of modern pop, modern electronic, modern rock with a dash of Baroque music. But the thing is, too, that I really love about this is that it's not like a majority of symphonic metal music where the orchestral elements, usually some strings, are used as an embellishment but still written metal style. Here, the strings do, in a sense, build off of what the rest of the song is doing. They're not just there for flourish or taste, it is compositionally sound as well. And so it's just this really perfect blending of classical music and modern music in a way where everything suits each other. And without losing their strengths, without losing their core identity. The classical instruments don't just sound classical, they are playing classical music alongside this traditional modern music. And it just works, and how and why, and I can't uh I don't get it. There is so much harmonic depth to the Baroque sections that feels like it would clash with the simplicity of the modern elements, and it just doesn't. And I don't know where that through line exists, but they found it. Whoever composed this found the point where these two coincide on the Venn diagram and said, that's where we're composing stuff. And it blows my mind. But it doesn't just stop at the instruments either. If you ignore the Baroque exclusive sections and you just appreciate and listen to and engage with the music on its surface level, I think it's really easy to walk away from this just sort of taking it as a pop song. Yeah, it's got some strings in it, it's got some cool things that sound old, but for the most part, it's a dance pop track. But what I think is really ingenious is hiding classical composition ideas inside of the pop aesthetic. Sure, the chord progressions are simpler, sure, the rhythms are simpler, but did you really listen to the vocals? Emphasis on the plural of vocals. Emilie lays down so many vocal tracks here, constantly using counterpoints everywhere, Hawkins. It's kind of wild just how much depth she includes through the melody of the vocal lines, as well as the embellishing vocal parts, without ever really taking attention away from the lead. It ensures that if you're going to listen to this casually, or maybe just not as critically, or maybe you don't even know any music at all and you're just enjoying what's on, you can listen to this and really enjoy it as a modern song. But if you know what to look for, if you're trained in music, if you've played classical music even, you can really hear all the complexities in the multi-layered melodies coming out of the vocals. We even get some really interesting harmony coming from the vocals as well. It the more I listen to it, so like here's the thing, right? I have this, I don't know if you guys want to call it an inside joke. Maybe y'all get tired of me hearing it. I'm tired of me saying it. I honestly don't know where y'all sit on this, but I always bring up the idea of the chorus, the central motif of the song, and I frequently say if you're going to make me listen to it 3+ times in a track, change it up. Give me some contrast to it. I don't think I needed that here because every time we came back to the chorus, I heard something new. Not because something new was added or something was changed, but I literally found something I hadn't heard the first time around or the second time around, despite it being there. And a lot of that's just due to the depth and complexity of the composition at play. there is so much going on. And what I find even more fascinating is that, at least on the production side, it doesn't feel like that. As I mentioned, you can listen to this as casually as you want and just really enjoy the surface level song. The melody coming from the lead vocals, the drum beat in the background, and some of the harmonic ideas that sit in the foundation. The core elements, the sound floor, the harmony, and the melody, are all sort of pushed to the forefront in a way. I don't think necessarily that's how I would describe it if I were going to describe the production of it. I think some of the flourishy elements and the additional vocal lines have sort of the same weight as most of the main melody lines, but the only way I can interpret this is that these core foundational elements that make up the traditional components in a mainstream track, a less dense one, are emphasized somehow, some way, in order to present them as the first thing people hear. If they want to dig deeper, there is a wealth of information and complexity in this track, but if you don't, that's going to be what you pick up on. And it's going to be the core foundation, the core pyramid of compositional techniques that are utilized in mainstream music, so it's going to feel very modern. And it blows. Like, here's the thing, right? On every level, this feels exceptionally created. The production is exemplary, the performance is masterful, the composition is amazing, and it's all done in a way that's presentable to a modern audience while still having depth for somebody like me who's going to dig ridiculously deep into it. I don't think I can emphasize just how perfect this track is in both the creation process and the production process. Creating the performance and engineering the performance and creating the MP3 or whatever that was delivered to me through Spotify. I don't like to call any art perfect. There are most likely imperfections and concessions made while creating this. If you're really close to the project, possibly Emilie Autumn herself has some areas that she wishes could have been improved, but that's just normal with all art. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic here. I don't want to call anything perfect. There are probably imperfections in this somewhere. But as far as I'm concerned, I have nothing negative to say about this, which is also a very rare category for a song to be placed within. Even stuff I absolutely love, I usually have something that didn't quite work for me. And at least on a first listen, I'm just flabbergasted. I'm blown away by this. Everything's just done to such a high level. That's what I've that's how I want to walk away from this. um I know there was another thing I wanted to bring up and I can't remember what it was. Oh, so vocal technique. I brought this up a little bit. I'm not a vocal coach. If you want more in-depth than I can give on this, I suggest trying to get one of the more prolific vocal coaches out there on YouTube to react to this. Here's what I heard though. A lot of different types of vocal placement and usage. And I found this to be really interesting at how quickly she could switch how she was singing. I can't remember the exact moment this clicked for me, but I realized that she had a very forward-placed rock style delivery, and it was like a beat maybe later, and she switched back to a more throaty open sound for like 2 or 3 syllables, and then went back to the forward projection, and then she shifted into almost like borderline fry scream, adding a bunch of natural compression and distortion to her vocal cords, almost working right on the cusp of where your voice cracks and goes into your head voice, and really utilizing the vocal fry that comes from that to create a bit of disintegration to her vocals. Now, granted, I think most of this was disguised under some like megaphone sounding production, so a bit of the clarity wasn't there on, intentionally. But I did pick up on these little nuances, and I just think it's really impressive how she manipulates, all the muscles that go. I'm not a singer. I don't know everything that goes into it. If you give me a trumpet player, I can tell you exactly what they're doing. Here, I can only hear the differences, and they sound complex to me. It sounds difficult to perform. And so not only do we have this wide range of sounds coming at us from the vocalist, but also oftentimes in such a short period of time switching between a lot of them. I always find that really impressive. It's one of those techniques that, again, I don't know how difficult it is to quickly change between different placements of the vocals, but it's always going to impress me to have such range and diversity in such a short amount of time. To me, it feels like shifting octaves on a trumpet rapidly. A lot of it comes down to the embouchure, how you manipulate your lip muscles, your mouth muscles right here. Because, the trumpet only has three valves, so a lot of how you choose a note is based on your lips. And so it's really easy to slur through a bunch of notes that are in the same or general octave, but when you start jumping octaves, there's a lot of work that gets done here, and I always find that super impressive, and that's what this feels like to me. Shifting vocal placement is all about this muscular work of the face and the lungs and vocal cord stuff in here. See, I was kind of blown away by that too. Is that it? That can't possibly be it. I gotta give this another listen though. This was a wild ride. And I'm definitely gonna be checking out more of at least this album. This is just a fantastic introduction, I think, assuming the rest of the album is just as good as this. It could be that she decides to go in a very different direction for the rest of it. But I'm sold on this opening track. And it kind of bums me out because I was just talking about how I discovered her around the time this album came out, and either I just missed it, because it just says 2010. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a month, so it could have been at July, right in the middle of the year. I gotta figure out when Devil's Carnival came out. But yeah, either I just missed it or somehow I listened to this album and didn't enjoy it. And you know what? That's totally bad on past me's part. Though, we change. It's possible I didn't enjoy it at the time for some dumb reason. And that's fine. As long as I eventually come around to it like I did now. Because it's fascinated. I'm going to hit some lyrics right here. We're going to see what's going on there. And then we're going to wrap this video up. Alright, lyrically we start off with the line, "I'm your Opheliac," name dropping both the title of the song and the title of the album. In an excerpt from an interview with her, she states that an Opheliac, she explains the condition of a person having the characteristics of Ophelia. Ophelia, of course, being from Hamlet. She states, while the original Ophelia did indeed go mad, it was not primarily caused by her boyfriend knocking off her dad, but rather by not only Hamlet, but also all the men in her life manipulating and pushing her to the point of no alternative. So an Opheliac would be somebody who feels pushed and pulled around, manipulated in a way that the only response they have left is some sort of break from conformity. I don't think she necessarily thinks going mental is the meaning of being an Opheliac, but just a break from the norm. The chorus states, "You know the games I play, the words I say, when I want my own way, and you know the lies I tell when you've gone through hell and I say I can't stay. You know how hard it can be to keep believing in me when everything and everyone becomes my enemy, and when there's nothing more you can do, I'm gonna blame it on you. It's not the way I want to be, I only hope that in the end you will see it's the Opheliac in me." She speaks about the ways that maybe not her, but at least the character she's personifying makes these similar negative actions, possibly could be read as mistakes, constantly. It's something that always happens. You know the games I play, you know the words I say. These are things that I've done so often. You're familiar with them. She says that when you've been through hell, I probably won't be there for you. And when there's nothing more that you can do to help me, I'm going to blame everything on you. Things aren't going to be great. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do some dumb stuff. But I hope you see it's just who I have to be. It's the Opheliac in me. I have to do this in order to survive. It's an interesting way to phrase all of this. It also puts an interesting spin on the pre-chorus. It says, "But you are never able to keep me breathing as the water rises up again before I slip away." Almost as if to say that the actions that she took or will take or has taken in the chorus are dictated by feeling this pressure, feeling like drowning, feeling like at this point all you can do is push everyone away. The chorus by itself feels a bit negative, but in light of the pre-chorus, I think painted in a very specific perspective. Much like Ophelia from Hamlet felt like there was nothing else she could do than to lose her sanity given everything that was happening around her, the character of this story subsequently feels boxed in, a pressure put on them, and after so long, there's nothing they can do. They're done carrying this weight. And so they toss it off. They reject everyone and everything. They strive for self-preservation in whatever way that looks like. And I wonder, well, let me bring this line up. It's an annotation on the entire track rather than one specific line. It says the whole album, and more importantly this song, revolves around the archetype of the namesake that depicts a woman who is doomed solely because she is a woman. She is a parcel that is manipulated by the malicious outside forces around her. And that, once again, puts the chorus into perspective as well. She doesn't want to be this way. As she states, though, it's the Opheliac in me. It's the only way I can survive the weight and pressures I feel are being put on me. The bridge leans further into this. Studies show intelligent girls are more depressed because they know what the world is really like. Don't think for a beat, it makes it better. When you sit her down and tell her everything's going to be alright, she knows in society she either is a devil or an angel with no in between. I mean, this very much sits within the, immediately when I think of the devil versus angel thing, I remember a phrase that I used to hear a lot back in the 2010s, mid 2010s or so, that a lot of women are either frigid and cold or they're slutty, especially when it comes to presenting themselves in social situations. People just randomly hit on them, right? And so there's no way around this. And that's just one way that women can get boxed into the devil or angel side with no in between. Um, and so I think it's awesome how she addresses that right here. And that even knowing that there is no gray area present doesn't make anything better. It just sort of makes it worse because now you know that you can't be categorized as yourself. You're always going to be put into a box. Um, so yeah, an interesting track, definitely sitting on the feminist side, with plenty of social criticism about the way women are seen in society. And you know what's crazy too? Like, I've brought this up a couple of times when we looked at political tracks, but it's been 13 years since this song came out, and it feels just as relevant as ever. I hate saying that. I really do. There is no reason why songs addressing such topics from such a long time ago. I mean, 13 years ago isn't much, and I suppose the older you get, the less time that actually feels like, but it's still almost a decade and a half. Progress should be made in that time. And I think some has for sure, but not as much as I would have liked. All right, that's going to wrap this up. Those are my thoughts on Emily Autumn's Opheliac. I don't even know if I'm going to record the next video here. I think I'm just going to listen to this whole album because I can't wait. I need more of this. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments section if you enjoyed this, if there was anything that stood out to you, topics that I touched on but didn't dive enough into, or maybe something you noticed that I didn't. Above that, in the description, yeah, in the description box is a link for Linktree. It'll take you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We do have another special selection coming up today. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.